Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the Monday, April 27th, 2026 hearing of the Minnesota Senate Transportation Committee to order. The time is 3:05 p.m. We are in room 1100 of the Minnesota Senate building. In accordance with the rules of the Senate, the following members will be participating remotely in today's hearing. Senator Carlson from Eagan. Members, we have 3 matters before us today. None of them require action. And so I appreciate your being here because they are really important items to hear about. 2 of them have to do with studies that we requested on the part of the Department of Transportation and others to bring back some important policy information as we were considering policy changes. Last year, this work maybe not manifests itself into any initiatives or policy changes this year, but it's very, very important work as we continue to try to solve a couple of big problems. So I'm of course talking about wheelchair accessible vehicles and railroad freight rail safety and wayside detectors, and then of course an issue that's been before us for conversation quite a bit, and that's the Taxpayer Transportation Accountability Act. We're going to hear a little bit about that today from MnDOT as well as AFSCME. They have somewhat differing perspectives on how well that law is working that we passed a few years ago, and we do have the legislative auditor who's been commissioned to conduct an analysis and program evaluation of the TTAA. And so we'll have more information from their perspective this fall, but in the meantime we thought we would bring AFSCME and MnDOT forward to hear a little bit about TTAA. We get a report on that every year, so we'll hear kind of where we're at and what our perspectives are on that. And just as with big apologies, I will actually have to step out of the room because a literal higher power has called me, has summoned me, the higher power being the governor. I have to go chat, have a little cup of coffee with the governor and a few others who are more powerful than I am at 4 o'clock. So
Mr. Chair, do you want me to come with?
Yeah, come on. Yeah, but we're going to be discussing the bill that we passed off the floor today. So if you're super interested in that package, come along. So with that, I will, however, because I'm a big nerd, I'm going to go back and watch the video of this hearing because I'm very, very interested in these conversations and the information that people have developed over the past year. But in the meantime, I will have time to hear about the TTAA. All right, so Mr. Benner, why don't you come forward and share with us a little bit about the TTAA, the Taxpayers Transportation Accountability Act.
All right, I'm just going to share my screen really quick. There we go. All right.
So please introduce yourself and then proceed as you see fit.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Pat Benner. I'm a legislative representative with AFSCME Council 5. Today, I'm going to briefly go over the Taxpayers Transportation Accountability Act, or TTAA, and the results we've seen so far, explore what we've seen pertaining staff levels and the relationship with agency funding, and show a couple of examples of what these bids look like in the reports, time permitting. So since 2009, MnDOT must make an internal bid on any maintenance, inspection, or design work that they intend to consult out. And if they find themselves to be cheaper for contracts valued over $250,000, then they must cancel the contract. They also need to report to the legislature showing the scope of what has been outsourced and what has been kept in-house. The department has the discretion to outsource work valued below $250,000, even if MnDOT is the cheaper option. Since 2009, MnDOT sought to outsource 1,081 projects to consultants per the TTAA reports. MnDOT's only canceled one single project through this process, and that was back in fiscal year 2011, which is a 0.1% rate of avoiding privatization. If the agency were perfectly staffed, meaning that we always had the expertise, equipment, and capacity to look just at the base costs, no additives required, MnDOT would have been the cheaper option 61% of the time, and have saved over $113 million since 2009. The construction delay inflation factor has been a big driver of internal costs, and we've come to think that generally this is an arbitrary, kind of made up number. For the contracts that fall into the discretionary bucket, the department generally has not needed to utilize any additives to justify keeping it within the consultant's purview, and so they haven't. To that end, 21% of all contracts are found to be more expensive than the agency cost, even after additives, and all but one of those contracts was valued below $250,000. I'd like to explore now what staffing has looked like over the last 12 years or so and compare it to expenditure growth within MnDOT since 2014. As you can see on the chart, MnDOT spending has grown from about $3 billion in fiscal 15 to $5 billion in fiscal 27, and this is actually slightly an undercount. I wanted to try to strip out the federal only funds as part of IIJA. But that was about a 68% increase. Over that same period, funded FTEs have increased from 4,772 to 5,348, which is about a 12% increase. But if we look at the total number of bargaining unit members within AFSCME at MnDOT, we've stagnated, not grown over that period. Since 2014, this group has only grown by about 3%, and keep in mind that is people, not FTEs. Some of those workers are part-time. And with some back of the napkin math, AFSCME workers now make up only about 53% of MnDOT's workforce, down from 58% in 2014. As a reminder, AFSCME represents transportation generalists, specialists, mechanics, and other frontline workers at MnDOT. They're the ones that fill potholes, repair guardrail, maintain signage, paint, inspect road projects, perform design work, maintain buildings, and plow snow. So to try to reconcile this discrepancy, AFSCME did recently send a data request and actually a follow-up to it to get a grasp on if there were any widespread vacancies within the department, and to our surprise, the department had some systemic challenges in filling out the appropriate documentation for when a worker left a position. These 1768 forms are vital for tracking when a funded position in state government has a vacancy. And at least as of December of 2025, there were 291 vacancies in AFSCME positions. 76 of them had been open since 2024, and 22 had been since 2022. I will just include a caveat that per a more recent data request, now all but one of those positions is only been vacant since 2025. But in fact, the number of vacancies has grown by 6 or 7 people. And if we look at where the positions remain unfilled, District 1, District 4, and the Metro have disproportionately high rates of vacancies staying open once they're created, particularly in the TSS series, which is where a lot of our snowplow drivers and maintenance workers reside in. If we tacked those open positions onto the chart I posted earlier, our growth would be about 13%. So to be clear, your budgeting process pays for the positions, and we'd assert that there are clearly some issues in filling these positions, chiefly due to pay, job requirements, but it seems like this is just normal. There's no privatization problem, that our members are appropriately compensated, with low turnover. And I'd just like to summarize some of the shortcomings about the law as it's currently written. To start, there's no equal measure of insourcing or adequate context for how much has been outsourced over these past 16 years. It's also very likely that the department's scoping of projects simply doesn't mesh with the requirements of this report. If they've already scoped out all the work that needs to be done in a given year and then deployed all the internal resources where they can, they'd have to outsource the rest by definition, and that may lead to finding justifications on paper to outsource it after the fact. That's likely why the validity of the state's internal bid and all components thereof are questionable. But it is very clear that neither this law nor any other has dissuaded consulting out our work, nor has it spurred getting open positions filled. So I'd like to explore a better option here, and apologies that the link is broken in this, but I believe in your packets you have a copy of the reports. No? Okay. I have copies in my bag if folks are interested. So the Yale Department of Economics published a paper that explored costs within the U.S. Department of Transportation's and Public Infrastructure. They found that lack of state capacity and experience was a growing concern for DOT workers nationwide, and that there's a positive correlation between worker pay, which is a proxy for skill and expertise, and cost savings on projects. In fact, the higher the pay of the worker, there is a larger savings potential for the state's departments of transportation by assigning them larger and more complicated projects. They even go they even go so far to say that, at least in California, that the public sector should match private sector compensation to keep the highest quality of worker as long as they can. I've included for you all the link, so sorry about that. But I think it makes a compelling case for deriving savings by investing in the workforce and keeping that institutional knowledge working for the people, not private interests. And then, Mr. Chair, I am more than happy to take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Benner. Why don't we back up just a couple of steps here? And you discussed, so on the aggregated TTAA report highlights, which I think was the second, yes. Talk about the additives that inflate the base costs and kind of how all that works. What are those elements?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So these additives have historically come into three different buckets. There was the new hire additive, which was from around 2009 to 2011, which was supposed to reflect the cost of finding a new employee to fill the position so they could do the work. There was also the premium overtime factor, which was used from about that time until maybe 3 or 4 years ago to reflect the cost of having workers, get paid overtime to make sure projects get done even beyond their FTE. But the largest and most impactful additive is the premium or the inflation delay factor. So my understanding of this, the definition that has been included in TTAA reports over the years is that MnDOT believes that it'll take X number of years in the future to complete a project. Because they can't get to it right now, we're going to factor that additional cost in due to the purchase of materials 5 years down the road to sort of inflate the cost. And they have, generally speaking, been applied to projects almost exclusively where there's a risk that MnDOT might actually be the cheaper bid before the previous two. And that is today the only additive that they use, to my knowledge, that's listed in TTAA.
I see. And it would be the perspective that you bring that that these are unfair ways of analyzing the public bid, if you will, for a given project.
Yes, Mr. Chair, certainly. The delay inflation factor sometimes can substantially dwarf the underlying project. I do believe that the 2025 TTA report is in your packets, and they have an appendix at the back. There's an example that I like to use, Trunk Highway 65 reconstruction on page 12 of that report, where it's a series of projects that have been bid out to different companies for different stretches of Trunk Highway 65. And in each case, the delay inflation factor is 3 or 4 times the size of the underlying bid. And that happens often. across especially those projects above $250,000.
Thank you. So turning to the, I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on this CL report that you brought to our attention, that you mentioned a little bit before our meeting today. And members will distribute that report, and we'll post it on the committee website as well. But I took a little bit of time to glance at it, and some of the key findings were pretty interesting, and they might be a little bit counterintuitive. But it was a report that was done a number of years ago and then updated just last year, and it points to how if you have high quality staff inside an organization, it actually significantly reduces project costs, and moving to as high quality staff as possible, to a point that Mr. Benner made a little bit ago, reduces costs by about 14%, and savings in fact exceeds the salary, meaning these workers more than pay for themselves. So capacity isn't just headcount is the conclusion, it's about experience, skill, and institutional knowledge. And on the flip side, losing experienced staff is extremely costly. As retirements occur, there are project costs, cost overruns, projects last longer, go over time, scheduled time that's allowed, they bust their deadlines, and that sort of thing. So workforce erosion is a hidden cost driver, and most the capacity of most DOTs has declined, and so you kind of get the gist here. I mean, it's a fairly lengthy report. Administrative burden, increased costs, not a complicated concept to understand, but as you have less qualified, experienced people, that creates more complex procurement time and lengthier procurement time, and the cost variation that they find across states really isn't fully explained for projects, isn't explained by weather or geography. It's institutional differences from agency to agency. So the policy implications are that cutting government staff actually paradoxically increases total costs, even despite efforts to save on salaries, but it does end up increasing our infrastructure costs. Pay and retention reforms are a very high return on investment, et cetera. So it's a pretty interesting study, kind of flies in the face of how we think about staffing and paying people well and keeping our agencies really well staffed. We end up paradoxically saving money on projects and saving money overall and building higher quality projects on time. So like I said, I will share that with everyone. Any questions, members, for Mr. Benner? All right. Well, we'll see if he's whistling Dixie or not here. I think in later summer or early fall. See what the legislative auditor has to say about all of this. But I do think it is interesting that the TTAA report, shows that despite our best efforts to try to actually deliver projects, some of which would be picked up by our existing public employees, we do almost none of that. Was MnDOT going to come forward and present on the TTA report or present a response? All right, come on down. Mr. Rudin, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Even though we know who you are. It's for the people who are listening and who don't know who you are.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Eric Rudin with MnDOT Government Affairs, and first want to just acknowledge our partnership with AFSCME. Certainly, we couldn't do what we do without the good people who are AFSCME members. So I know this has been an ongoing discussion for many years. I think we're actually looking forward to the legislative audit so we can try to get some clarification and some answers around this issue. Just that we don't have a formal presentation prepared on this one, so I'll just make a couple comments and then we'll be available for questions. But The theory about having consultants do a portion of the work, of course, is that there are times when we have very specialized contracts. So we might have, for example, a bridge. We're not going to be designing that type of bridge all the time. It might be something that comes around, once every, say, 15 years, for example. And so wouldn't necessarily make sense to hire folks to come on staff to design that type of bridge. And then, that project would be ended, and what would they do after that? So in those circumstances, we feel it does make sense to contract that work out. The consultant use also helps us with fluctuations in funding. So if we get large one-time infusions of funding, for example, Corridors of Commerce is a good example where, we've had a couple very large appropriations, but that's not ongoing permanent funding. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to hire staff to help us deliver those projects because, after 3 years go by and those projects are delivered, then the funding sort of goes away. And so we try to staff up to more of a base level of funding. As I think was mentioned, but I'll just reiterate, we have increased our staff over the last 10 years or so. Our total staffing has gone up by about 15%. Within the program planning and delivery activity, that has actually outpaced the overall growth in agency staff. That's gone up about 21% over the last 10 years. So that equates to about 388 people within program planning and delivery that have been added over the last, again, 10 years. So finally, maybe I'll just mention that the report doesn't actually capture all of the work that MnDOT does. So it's really only the work that is contemplated to go out for consultant delivery. There is quite a bit of work that we do in-house that is not included in the report. And so, maybe that would be one thing to think about. It would be to just try to get the full picture of work that's done and how much of that is done in-house versus outsourced, instead of just sort of looking at the work that's outsourced. So that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chair, but happy to answer questions. And Ms. Plocher is also here to assist, as is our budget director, Sam Brown.
Thank you. Questions, members? So I have a question, Mr. Rudin. I heard you say that you've increased staffing by 15%. I think Mr. Benner's chart shows that, but not in some of the areas that his workers are responsible for. And I think ASME continues to the ASME workers and the kinds of services they provide. Their complement has stayed flat, while the funding at the agency has gone up, and the capacity of the agency to do more work has increased as well. But a lot of that is, I don't know if it's consistent with the representations you're making in terms of trying to manage for one time and volatile and an uneven flow of dollars. Has this been a conscious decision on the part of MnDOT to keep the folks who do the kind of work that Mr. Benner represents at a static number, and to shift focus or shift the ways in which we deliver those kinds of services?
Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of a conscious decision. I don't think there has been a conscious decision. I know we do have challenges, especially in more recent years, the last few years in particular, with being competitive in certain positions with especially local governments now in the metro area and certain parts of the state that are actually paying higher than MnDOT, which has been kind of a more recent development for us. So that has been a challenge, but we're working to try to address that. I don't know if we've been completely successful on that front, but that's been an ongoing challenge for us.
Mr. Dean, in the recent budget bills, we of course have increased resources and revenue for the Department of Transportation. Some of that we targeted specifically at operations and maintenance with the increase to the base level funding in that category. What's become of that effort on our part, to put more resources into the hands of MnDOT and focus it specifically on O&M?
Yeah, good question, Mr. Chair. I would say, a lot of that has gone to help us keep pace with the increased cost of materials. As we know, inflationary pressures the last few years have been pretty burdensome. So it has helped there. We've also tried to make investments, for example, in snow and ice to do more liquid applications of brine. So making those investments to have the equipment and also the brine making facilities. That's been an area of focus. So those are a couple of examples of how the increased investments in operations and maintenance have been put to use in recent years.
Well, thanks. That's illuminating because that initiative came from the legislature, with an intent in mind, but maybe not a specific direction or specific, appropriation attached to giving it specific direction to the Department of Transportation. So, which is the way we've operated for a long time as a committee. Is some things we specify, but for the most part, we put into the four main buckets over at the Department of Transportation: state road construction, operation maintenance, and the other two, whatever they are, I can't remember. And just kind of like, and assume that MnDOT is going to through our relationship and conversations, be responsive to what we hope, what we aspire to accomplish. And so that, I think, tells us that we need to be far more specific as we're appropriating to MnDOT. Especially when the initiative is coming from this side of the desk and not something that's being brought forward by MnDOT itself, just putting it out there. So, all right, anything further, members? All right. Anything further, Mr. Rudin? Final word, Mr. Benner?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate the opportunity to take a look at this very important subject for a short period. And like I said, we will get that Yale research to you shortly, including a summary of that. So that, all right, I also have a summary, so I'll send that to you. All right, so next we're going to hear about what we affectionately call WAVs or WAVs, wheelchair accessible vehicles, supply and availability, particularly in the transportation network companies sector, in on-demand service that would approximate Lyft and Uber. We were trying really, really hard to solve this problem. We thought we were on to a really interesting idea. Last year, thought that would come forward in the form of a legislative proposal, which it did not, which is disappointing, but maybe we can just figure out what the results of that conversation were during the interim, so that we can continue to chip away at this problem that we're trying to solve. So are we going to have Laura Rhodes come forward from the Department of Transportation to present the wheelchair accessible vehicle supply and availability report? All right, come on down. Thanks. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Laura Rhodes. I'm the director of MnDOT's Commercial Vehicle Operations Section, and with me today is...
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Sam Ritchie. I'm the staff attorney in the Office of Freight and Commercial Vehicle Operations.
Together, Sam and I led the Wheelchair Accessible Vehicle Study, and we are here today to give you an overview of that process and the resulting recommendations. Access to safe, affordable, and reliable transportation for all individuals is essential for Minnesotans' prosperity and quality of life. This includes access to safe and reliable wheelchair accessible vehicles, or WAVEs. Minnesotans who do not have access to personally owned WAVEs for transportation must instead rely on the state system to get to and from things like medical appointments, the grocery store, school, work, social engagements, or time to spend with family and friends.
The issue of availability and access to WAVEs is not a new one, and there have been varying opinions on how to address it. According to a 2022 National Household Travel Survey, 18.6 million Americans aged 5 and older self-reported as having travel-limiting disabilities. When compared to those surveyed who reported no disabilities, those with travel-limiting disabilities revealed that they were less likely to travel or be employed, they lived in lower-income households, and they compensated for their disabilities by asking other people for rides, limiting their travel time to daytime only, or using special transportation services.
So during the 2025 legislative session, MnDOT was directed to conduct a study on wheelchair accessible vehicles and services in Minnesota.
The study goals were to identify strategies to help increase the availability of WAVEs, to improve service quality, and to provide cost-effective transportation solutions tailored to the needs of riders with disabilities. Ultimately, the report was meant to, 1, detail the input, consultation efforts, and public comments from stakeholders and the public in conducting the study. 2, include the data collection and analysis methods used to conduct the study and develop recommendations for enhancing WAVE services across Minnesota. And 3, to utilize identified policy changes made in other states around the country to assess any already established solutions for WAVE supply and availability.
In Minnesota, there are various entities involved with WAVE-related transportation. MnDOT's Office of Freight and Commercial Vehicle Operations is responsible for the oversight and regulation of Special Transportation Services, STS, and non-emergency medical transportation, NEMT. This oversight includes annual inspections of vehicles, annual audits of the provider's records, in addition to complaint investigation and enforcement. MnDOT staff inspect approximately 3,400 STS vehicles per year, which includes approximately 800 WAVEs. The State Patrol is responsible for the inspection of WAVEs used for public transit, residential care facilities, or taxi services. State Patrol staff inspect approximately 5,000 WAVEs per year. Through its paratransit service, Metro Mobility, the Metropolitan Council provides accessible rides to individuals with disabilities in their service area. The council also partners with transportation providers with WAVEs in their fleet to provide an on-demand service. DHS, along with the managed care organizations, are responsible for providing reimbursement to NEMT providers. And finally, individual cities are responsible for regulating TNCs, as there's no statewide framework in place. In Minneapolis, for example, TNCs are charged an annual wheelchair surcharge of over $10,000 if they do not meet the city's criteria for wheelchair services.
So the study directed MnDOT to consult and engage in meaningful collaboration in conducting the study. This slide provides an overview and list of stakeholders who regularly and meaningfully participated in monthly meetings, assisted with community outreach, and provided feedback on proposed solutions to the identified issues. So the approach that we took to the study, first we held a total of 6 stakeholder meetings that were open to the public with the option to participate both in person or virtually. Each of those 6 meetings focused on a specific topic, such as identification of the challenges. There are presentations made by transportation providers, including Uber, Lyft, and then a panel of STS and NEMT operators. The various roles of state agencies with respect to WAVE transportation, the process and challenges associated with making vehicles accessible, and a review of other WAVE programs or models throughout the country. In recognizing that learning more about the lived experiences of WAVE users and their caregivers would be critical to the outcomes of this study, we spent 2 days with the Minnesota Council on Disability at their booth at the State Fair. There we had a chance to chat and connect with WAVE users. We also conducted a study, and this is just an example that illustrates the lack of parity for WAVE users when it comes to everyday activities. Respondents identified the top three activities that they reported missing out on. And those included community and social events, family and friend events, and essential errands.
These are a couple of responses that we also received from the survey, again, highlighting the challenges that WAVE users face. There's really no options for people in greater Minnesota, and in the metro, it is both unreliable and very expensive. Or on the weekends, it is very difficult, if impossible, to get a WAVE at the last minute in case of emergency, as I have experienced. So, what did we learn through the study? Most participants identified on-demand as the most important issue to address in developing recommendations for the legislature. As we learned from those lived experiences of WAVE users, they can't simply call an on-demand ride like an Uber or Lyft. It isn't easy, and it limits where they can go and when.
The second most important issue was getting to and from medical appointments. Now, as we know, STS and NEMT is available for this purpose, but as we learned from STS providers, the reimbursement rate is low, so they find it difficult to find and retain reliable drivers. And as one study participant told us, quote, "Access to medical appointments is the top priority because it directly impacts health and safety. Missed visits can lead to worsening conditions and preventable hospitalizations."
And third was increasing rural options.
So in developing the recommendations that are ultimately found in the report, we started with a sort of preview of recommendations for the group at our November stakeholder meeting. We gathered additional feedback that you just saw on the previous slide pertaining to which aspect of WAVE service feels most urgent or important to address. And then during the January meeting, we asked meeting participants to rank the broad categories of proposed recommendations and provide their feedback on the recommendation's effectiveness in addressing WAVE supply and availability. That was done via a Mentimeter survey. Throughout the course of this study, the group identified a number of issues related to the availability of and access to WAVE services throughout the state. Feedback came from many stakeholders, including state agencies, transportation providers and drivers, WAVE users and their caregivers, and advocates. All of these provided meaningful input about the issues and ideas to address them. The final report provides recommended ideas for the legislature to consider when evaluating available options to best address the identified needs of WAVE users and riders, the various study group stakeholders, and other public participants.
We believe that these recommendations are not intended to exist as standalone options, but would best serve the state when paired together in some combination. And for the sake of brevity, please excuse the lack of nuance and detail of these bullet point descriptions. There is a helpful table on pages 24 and 25 of the report that provides some context and additional details. But ultimately, our recommendations include to provide funding to counties to enter into contracts with providers who have WAVE fleets to provide a similar service to Metro Mobility's premium on-demand mode. Impose a surcharge on TNC rides to create a pool of money to reimburse drivers in providing WAVE rides, purchase of WAVEs for a fleet, maintenance of WAVEs, etc. Provide funding to increase the reimbursement rate for WAVE rides completed by STS and NEMT providers. Encourage a policy framework for connected and automated vehicles that includes language regarding accessible vehicles. And encourage TNCs to conduct a pilot program in the state using a model that has been successful in other cities around the country. And with that, thank you very much for your time and opportunity to present on this important topic.
And we are available for any member questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation. That was very interesting. Questions, members? All right, we have a few other folks who would like to share some of their thoughts. Thank you. I'm always burying my agenda, I can never find it. So why don't I invite up Joe Runnels, Joan Wilshire, and Rob Woodlick. And then we have a fourth person, but only 3 spots, so. All right. Hey, Mr. Runnels.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joel Runnels, and I serve with Minnesota Council on Disability. And as many of you may know, we serve as a liaison between Minnesotans with disabilities and all of you, our state legislature. And through that work, we have consistently heard that transportation remains one of the most significant barriers to independent living and community participation for the 1 in 4 Minnesotans who have a disability. So findings which were shared in the study reflect what we as a council have heard across the state. And what we have heard is that transportation is not a standalone issue, but it is a cross-cutting barrier in that it affects access to all areas of independent living, such as healthcare and employment and education, and overall community living that all of us are used to. In our 2025 legislative priorities survey, Minnesotans with disabilities described missing medical appointments, limited access to services, and increased isolation due to unreliable transportation. And then conversely, as one respondent shared, reliable transportation can be life-changing because it, in this respondent's words, it opens doors to jobs and belonging. So taken all together, these challenges point to a broader issue of equity. As one participant in MnDOT study noted, wheelchair users deserve parity and choice. So that principle, parity, should, in our opinion, guide this committee's next steps. This study also highlights that Minnesota does not need to reinvent a wheel or build an entire new system from scratch. That's because there are meaningful opportunities to improve access by leveraging existing TNC networks, which were mentioned, and wave providers through existing partnerships and cross-dispatch models. These approaches can help expand accessibility and reduce wait times. At the same time, emerging technologies which were mentioned, like connected and automated vehicles, present a forward-looking opportunity to improve access. These systems, however, will only deliver the kinds of equitable outcomes that Minnesotans with disabilities want if accessibility is built in from the onset, rather than trying to retrofit or approach this like an afterthought. So given these findings, Minnesota Council on Disability encourages this legislature to focus on a number of practical near-term steps to improve wave access across Minnesota. One, require basic data reporting from TNCs and providers on wave availability, wait times, and service gaps to better understand where access is falling short. Two, to support targeted pilot programs to expand on-demand wave access in both Metro and Greater Minnesota, with a focus on reducing wait times and improving coordination across providers. Three, to direct state agencies to develop guidance on wave accessibility and service expectations, helping to promote more consistent statewide access, especially outside of the 7-county metro area. Four, to explore sustainable funding options to support long-term wave expansion, such as partnerships or user-based funding mechanisms. And then lastly, 5, to ensure accessibility is included in emerging transportation policy, including connected and automated vehicles. So together, these steps represent practical progress toward a more equitable transportation system, one that reflects the principle of parity and ensures Minnesotans with disabilities have real choices in how to travel. Without reliable transportation, Minnesotans with disabilities are effectively excluded from independent living and full participation in community life. We appreciate this committee's leadership on this issue. We look forward to continued collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Runnels. We also have your letter in the packet, so we appreciate that. That's also posted on the committee website. Yes, I invite us all into a collaboration to try to get some action on this list of recommendations because, you know, we can figure this out. We've been admiring the problem for way too long. Questions, members, for Mr. Runnels? Okay, with that, I'm going to invite Senator Hemmingson-Yager over to my seat, and I'm going to exit, and we'll go to the next testifier. So, come on.
Thank you. Let's have Ms. Joan Wilshire come up and you can introduce yourself for the committee. for the record, we can get started.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Joan Wilshire, and I'm a person with a disability that uses scooter and uses a variety of transportation modes. I drive my own vehicle, and yet that we're still having a variety of different transportation issues. I'm coming from the perspective of, as I said, lived experience as a person with disabilities, but also as a member of the Minnesota Consortium for Citizens with Disabilities and as a former executive director of the Minnesota Council on Disability. The report that was just given to us by MnDOT on the Wheelchair Accessibility Committee, I'm highly suggesting that we that you move forward with the recommendations that were listed in that report. And you could use that in a variety of ways in moving forward in some policy frameworks. I'm not going to repeat all of them that they had just mentioned, but the recommendations would certainly help provide more and get more wheelchair accessibility out there. And as also one of the things I wanted to reiterate is looking at certain circumstances where there's not enough wheelchair vehicles available, such as the on-demand issue, because we really don't have a situation set up yet. And so I'd like to do a quick story of my situation 3 years ago after a snowstorm. I got it was a minor accident, but my car was disabled. I was fine. And it took 3 hours for me to get home because there was no accessible transportation to pick me up. You know, the car could get towed, but there was nothing for me to pick up. Luckily, I was 12 blocks away from where I lived. And so I scooted home at 20-degree weather with, 15 inches of snow. So this, when we're looking at the report and so forth moving forward, we've got to keep figuring out how to get the on-demand transportation that's fully accessible for people. When we're looking in particular to all the new transportation systems coming in from autonomous vehicle taxi cabs, the TNCs. So I'm just highlighting my experience again. Senator Dibbles heard my situation many, many times. So it's one that needs to be repeated over and over again, and hopefully this will stick with you guys as well as we move forward to try to put together some better policies and so forth for transportation.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your testimony. So thank you. All right, next up I have Rob, or I'm sorry, any questions for the testifier? Okay, great, thanks again. Mr. Rob Wedlick? Okay, we'll get the mic over to you next. Thank you.
That good? Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I want to thank the legislature and MnDOT for working on this issue and coming up with this report. This really means a lot for our community and goes way beyond this room. So and hopefully will generate a lot of impact, positive impact for people's lives out there. I think the findings obviously acknowledge that there's a problem, and myself and members in my community with spinal cord injuries and mobility disabilities definitely have experienced a worsening problem over the last decade, given the kind of changing business model that's kind of ever changing. So we're here to help try to get more better accessible transportation, especially on demand or non-medical type transportation, especially when I have to go to the airport or to the store, out to a social engagement, so and things like that. I was on a phone call this morning and talking to one of my spinal cord injury friends, and it's like, "Oh, are you going to this thing?" And he's like, "No, I don't have a ride." So that's a daily thing for us. So I want to mention that we did have a bill SF 4699, and it was a kind of a modification upgrade to the SF 1111 that was introduced last session around transportation network, ride shares, and wheelchair accessibility. And it mentioned a lot of the provisions that Joel here from Minnesota Council on Disability called out, along with recommendations that were put into place from this report, you know, around providing funding and trying to, you know, integrate TNC's rideshare companies with services like Metro Mobility and NEMT, STS type transportations. We also acknowledge that there, you know, surcharge is probably the best way to go about that, and you know, 15 to 20 cent surcharge would get us around 2.5 to 5% of the fleet. You know, and around 30 to 40 cents would probably get us closer to 7.5 to 10%. So, you know, if we look at, you know, what could be a pilot, or, you know, if we want to just jump all in and try to make this a statewide impact, that kind of will, you know, be up for debate next session. So, you know, there's other things in how we delegate the money and so on. If that happens, that's one of the details that, you know, I think we've got some good solutions, but we're looking forward to getting that kind of dialed in next session. So, and we did, you know, propose amendments to autonomous vehicles, and incentives and requirements and ideas on that too. So hopefully if that legislation progresses, those amendments around wheelchair accessibility stay in the bill if that bill goes anywhere this year. So hopefully it does. But, yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I just kind of want to say it's really great that rideshare companies are, you know, integrating with third-party wheelchair accessible providers. But the sad truth is that there's no options in the third-party market right now, and so it still is a, you know, it's a potential solution, but it's not really a, you know, there's a window to kind of an empty window where there's really nothing on the other side. So the whole system really needs to be fixed. We're looking forward to working with the legislature and our stakeholders, corporate members, drivers, community members over the summer to, you know, come back with really good legislation for you guys. And, you know, I think, again, you know, accessibility does not come voluntarily. We've seen this, and it comes with a price, and it can be hard for people to make accommodations. And so, you know, this is something that really, it is about equity and equality and our solution in our community. And so that's kind of what we want, and we want to be able to live and, you know, contribute and participate in our community just like everyone else as much as possible. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you down the road.
Thank you for your insights and all of your work with us. Any questions for our testifier? No? Excellent. Thanks again. Thank you so much. All right, and then I have Mr. Josh Berg. If you could come up and introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. For the record, my name is Josh Berg, and this is my first time in front of this committee. I'm in Human Services quite a bit, so glad to be here today. I want to start out with something that happened this morning, because this issue is not abstract, and it is not hypothetical. And the reason I felt compelled to be here today to reinforce what the others have already said. This morning, an individual was scheduled to meet with me. They woke up early, they arranged their day, they confirmed and reconfirmed their ride because they have to organize their life around transportation in a way most of us never have to consider. They require a wheelchair-accessible vehicle to travel in their power wheelchair to get where they need to get. They arrived, we met, and then while we were waiting together, their ride to their next appointment and home afterward was inexplicably canceled. Dispatch told them that they were not in the pickup area and that a no-call, no-show would be flagged on their account. We were there, we were waiting, we were chatting. They didn't come. The system failed. Thankfully, this individual is resilient, tremendously resilient, because the system forces them to be. That kind of resilience is something I admire, but do not fully grasp as an able-bodied person. When transportation fails, it doesn't just mean someone is late. It means a meeting doesn't happen, a service doesn't start, a job opportunity disappears, a medical appointment is missed, a human being is left stranded. This is not a one-off, and this is not bad luck. This is how Minnesota's transportation system operates today. The Wheelchair Accessible Vehicle Supply and Availability Study makes this painfully clear. It confirms we do not have enough vehicles, enough drivers, or enough reliable options in rural Minnesota or in the metro. The study also begins to tell us why. Reimbursement rates are too low to sustain service. Providers cannot afford accessible vehicles or keep them on the road. Drivers leave because the math doesn't work. And our systems, especially on-demand and same-day service, are not built around how people actually live. Transportation is the thread that holds a person's life together. Without it, people lose access to health care. They lose employment, they lose social connection, their mental and physical health declines, and they are told implicitly that their participation in community life is optional. What is hardest about this is that we already know what needs to change. The study recommends investing in accessible vehicle supply, increasing reimbursement rates, supporting providers statewide, not just in the metro, and holding on-demand and private transportation systems accountable for real accessibility. In other words, this is not a mystery. This is a choice. What happened this morning will happen again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, unless we act. Minnesotans deserve a transportation system that shows up, that is reliable, and that allows people to live full lives. Until that happens, we are not just inconveniencing people, we are denying them access to opportunity, community, and basic human dignity. Several of the recommendations encourage changes. Encouragement is a suggestion. Access is an obligation, and Minnesota must treat it as one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay. Any further discussion on this topic? Something come up in your minds? All righty. Thanks again to all of our testifiers. We'll go on to our third agenda item, a presentation on the Wayside Detector System Study. I'd like to invite Julie Witcher and Matthew Miller up to give a presentation, please. As you're getting settled, please introduce yourselves for the record and go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I am Julie Witcher. I am with MnDOT, and I am the State Rail Safety Engineer.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Miller. I am a Special Project Manager at OSCVO within MnDOT.
All right, we are here to talk to you today about the Wayside.
Can you just pull a little closer to the mic if you could, please?
How's that? Okay, thank you. All right, we are here today to talk about the Wayside Detector System Study. I will go through our legislative directive, a little bit of the overview of the report structure, and then our key findings and insights, and go over some federal preemption considerations. So the Minnesota legislature directed MnDOT to conduct a study on wayside detector systems, focusing on technology performance, safety impacts, deployment considerations, cost implications, and the role of federal regulation. The goal is to provide a comprehensive assessment to inform policy and investment. So this is what the structure of the report is, starting with the introduction, going through what we have here in Minnesota, a performance analysis and discussion. So what we did was an analysis of deployed and emerging technologies, the safety impacts, incident trends, cost estimates, economic impacts on Minnesota industries, and a federal preemption analysis. Here in Minnesota, rail moves roughly 25% of our freight tonnage, over 99 million tons annually. It supports key sectors like agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and construction. Our detector coverage is densest on high traffic hazmat corridors, and spacing can vary anywhere from 2 to 30 plus miles. Hot bearing or hot box detectors, wheel impact load detectors, and dragging equipment detectors are our most common. National studies say up to 81% of coverage, or of reduction in axle and bearing related accidents since the 1980s. Detectors also improve reliability, reduce unplanned maintenance, support economic competitiveness by keeping freight moving efficiently. Here are the types of detectors we have here in Minnesota, some of which I've mentioned, but the hot bearing or box detectors, HBDs, are infrared sensors for bearing temperature. Hot wheel detectors, infrared sensors for wheel temperature. Dragging equipment detectors, which are accelerometers, paddles, or frangible bars for loose or hanging parts. Wheel impact load detectors, which are strain gauges for vertical force or tread defects, and acoustic bearing detectors, which are microphone arrays for internal bearing faults. Most of these detectors would be co-located for multi-sensor validation and reduced false positives. Here's another graphic explaining kind of what these are and where they're located. I'll just let you all take a minute to take in the location of where these detectors are. All right. So advanced systems can be machine vision portals, onboard monitoring, truck hunting, performance detectors, fire detection, weigh in motion, the use of AI, remote sensing, digital automatic couplers, infrastructure and environment monitoring. The deployment is limited due to the cost and complexity, but interest is growing. There are pilot projects for these underway both nationally and internationally. Onboard monitoring will allow continuous real-time diagnostics. Machine vision systems use high-speed cameras and AI to inspect rolling stock at line speed. All right, so mechanical and equipment defects are one of the causes of rail incidents here in Minnesota. They are ranked 4th after human factors and track defects and miscellaneous causes. We average approximately 3 mechanical defect incidents here in Minnesota annually. Nationally, equipment-caused accident rates have declined due to targeted detection and maintenance. They're down 36% since 2005. Wayside detectors now conduct over 3.5 million automated inspections daily across the U.S., generating vast data sets for proactive maintenance and safety. The reliability of these systems depends on rigorous maintenance, collaboration, and standardized training. The FRA is looking into improved protocols and personnel certification. The operational benefits of these types of detectors are not uniform across all railroads and can vary based on many factors such as operating speeds, hazardous commodities, and risk exposure. Detector coverage plays a critical role in identifying mechanical defects early, yielding annual savings throughout reduced repair work and equipment wear. It helps identify defects early, saving over $2.5 million per avoided incident. And that's a national average, that 2.5 million per avoided incident. Savings can come from avoided emergency response, infrastructure damage, protecting railroad personnel and first responders by reducing the need to occupy unsafe positions after failures. Early detection means fewer on-ground inspections on live track and fewer re-railing and repairing operations, which lowers public risk and potential hazmat exposure. Economic benefits extend to shippers and broader freight ecosystem, and a more predictable service improves cycle times and reduces logistics costs. So this here on the screen is the cost estimates for Class 2 and 3 railroads. It is broken down by railroad type based on the length of track that they have. There are 3 scenarios modeled: conservative, moderate, and optimistic for small, medium, and large railroads. Cost benefits are detailed here for each scenario. For smaller rural lines, the costs may well outweigh the benefits unless the risk is high. For larger lines, the benefits are stronger. Sometimes no deployment is justified where the risk is low, where there are low speeds, low hazard commodities, and limited population exposure. You can see this further breakdown here in the table. Now, there are a few competitive programs that offer offset costs, or that may offset these costs for voluntary deployment of detectors, where risk and operational context support their use. There are federal programs. We've got CRISI at 1.2 nationally, Infra at 600 million nationally, and USDA rural deployment, which supports short line upgrades tied to rural access and job creation. As far as state programs here, we have the SLIM tax credit, which is the short line infrastructure modernization tax credit. These programs can help offset the costs for voluntary detector deployment, especially where risk and operational context support its use. Laws, regulations, and orders related to railroad safety, and laws, regulations, and orders related to railroad security shall be nationally uniform to the extent practicable. That is from the Federal Railroad Safety Act. The FRSA and the Interstate Commerce Commission Termination Act establish a national uniformity for rail safety and operations. Neither currently require wayside detectors or set minimum spacings. Both of these are designed to ensure consistent national rules for railroads and operating across state lines. Neither statute listed here requires detectors or establishes minimum standards for spacing. Federal courts have interpreted these laws as limiting state authority in areas regulated by FRA or STB. And I've got 2 examples here. States may regulate if addressing a local safety hazard, if not incompatible with federal law and not unreasonably burdening interstate commerce. Now, I believe there's a mistake on this graphic, which was updated after this report was after this presentation was pulled together, but it has been corrected in the actual report. But I apologize for having a graphic that's outdated. So state level actions are subject to federal preemption and may not be enforceable unless they meet the narrow exceptions under FRSA. Industry standards are voluntary commitments to detector spacing. They started out at, the AAR requirements started out at 40 miles apart and are now typically 15 to 20 miles on key routes. The industry is moving toward denser coverage, detector coverage voluntarily, but federal preemption remains a consistent, a key constraint for state mandates. So Minnesota's challenge is how to apply these technologies pragmatically across a diverse network, including volume corridors and thin margin short lines. Successful deployment depends on people and processes, clear alarm thresholds, 24/7 notification pathways, and field response procedures that are as important as the detectors and sensors themselves. Funding and delivery models should reflect the full life cycle. Capital grants alone may not be sufficient for lower margin lines. Voluntary incentive-based programs, grant programs, and coordination with federal partners are recommended approaches. And the Federal Railroad Administration's Railroad Safety Advisory Council, RSAC, is currently addressing the topic of federal wayside detectors. That advisory council was disbanded for a little while and is now back together and is taking on this topic. And that concludes the information I have for you today.
Cool. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, did you want to add anything?
No, just if you have any questions, I'd address that.
Okay. Questions for our presenters? Quiet bunch. Okay. All right. Well, I guess you're off the hook. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up the next two people, please. Mr. Joel Mueller and Nicholas Kadich. And then after these gentlemen, Ms. Amber Backus will have you come up next. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record. And I'll have Mr. Joel Mueller go first.
Okay, thank you. Joel Mueller with the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. I just want to begin by thanking MnDOT for allowing labor to weigh in on, provide our insight when, and also considering our comments in the lead up to the final release of this report. It is clear, just by the presentation before us today, that these devices are very effective at preventing derailments. Across the rail network throughout the state, hazardous material is transported over all of the rail corridors. And I just want to remind everybody that we did have a significant derailment up in War Road, Minnesota, just a few weeks ago, where 47 cars derailed. The derailment is still under investigations, but again, it's a reminder of how catastrophic these accidents can be. We were very disappointed once this final report was released to find out that we don't really have a clear picture on the disbursement of these devices across the rail network in Minnesota. Our members know that because they operate over them every day, but the legislature doesn't know it. We're just given generalizations and averages from the Association of American Railroads, but there's no way to verify that information is correct. In fact, I can give you a corridor across southern Minnesota that is considered a key corridor, which handles over 10,000 carloads of hazardous material a year. Trains will travel over that corridor for over 100 miles without passing over a defect detector, and that is very concerning. So, we are also getting reports from our members that the railroads are in the process of changing the way that defects are notified. They're given notification of defects in their trains without any kind of formal training. This has led to a lot of confusion when they receive these notifications, and they're unsure of how to proceed. And quite frankly, the notifications and the information they're giving from the dispatching center are in direct conflict with the railroad's operating rules. So it would have required a visual inspection for that type of defect, and they were instructed to proceed at 30 miles per hour to the next location. We're also receiving reports of trains arriving at terminals, yards, with known defects, brakes that are sticking, hot wheels, wheels that are so hot that the steel is actually discolored. And these defects should have been picked up by these Wayside defect detectors, but they were not. So they had no idea that this was going on in their train. So again, we feel, the BLET feels that this report just sets the table for the state to act on this issue. But there was mention about the Railway Safety Advisory Committee that has been disbanded, and to our knowledge, it has not been reestablished. That focuses exclusively on Wayside defect detectors. So I just want to thank the committee, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to these. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? All right. Go ahead and introduce yourself and proceed.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Nick Kadich, and I am the Safety and Legislative Director for Smart Transportation Division, representing conductors, engineers, and yardmasters in Minnesota. So first, we would like to commend MnDOT for putting this comprehensive study together. The final product represents input from all of the stakeholders, and frankly, I think that was a challenge, but well executed. So if this body chooses to pursue legislation on this subject, this report will be a great tool, but it's not the complete picture. The study has a focus on best practices, recommendations, and commitments from industry. Specific information on Minnesota's Wayside detector inventory, their locations, and the actual real-world procedures for responding to an alarm are missing. This data is not available for MnDOT to have incorporated into the study and varies greatly between railroad carriers. So in addition, railroad employees currently have the power and authority to circumvent or override these unregulated best practices at any time. The communities along the railroad right-of-way, who are the potential victims of derailments, do not have a voice in this decision-making, but bear the brunt of the consequences. So we would encourage you to engage with all the stakeholders, especially labor and industry, if you choose to move forward with policy. There's a solution here that works for everyone and does a better job protecting the public than the status quo. So I had told myself I was going to leave it at that, and then preemption came up in the presentation, and I would just like to say the only way to truly test that would be in court, would be to litigate it. And Ohio has been successfully managing a Wayside detector law and program for 3 years unchallenged. So with that, I would take any questions happily. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions? All right. Third time's a charm. Here we go. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Amber Backus, and I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Regional Railroads Association, which represents the 4 Class 1 railroads and the 14 short lines operating in Minnesota. They employ 3,659 Minnesotans and move 169.1 million tons of freight, and that would be the equivalent of 12.1 million more trucks on Minnesota's highways. I want to begin by sharing our gratitude for MnDOT's efforts to undertake this initiative. As you heard from them and my colleagues here, the study covered a lot of ground in terms of understanding the technology, examining the safety impacts, analyzing the financial considerations on both the rail industry and its customers, and evaluating the interplay with federal regulations and preemption. The agency took the job seriously and spent many hours holding meetings, interviewing railroads and other stakeholders, and attending field tours. They also were generous in sharing updates on the study and soliciting feedback on drafts from all stakeholders as they became available. The final product has a lot of good information, and while it didn't reach all the conclusions the industry or our labor colleagues had hoped for, we kind of looked at it like a legislative compromise where not everybody's completely happy, so there must be some good in it. We do think it reflects a balanced and measured approach. It also demonstrates the rapid evaluation of new technologies like onboard monitoring technology and machine vision systems that complement detector systems to make the rail network even safer than it already is. And from the perspective of the short line railroads, we are grateful to see the study concurs that the costs of installing and maintaining wayside detectors in their operations exceed the proposed safety benefits, especially when you consider the risk reduction short lines implement by operating at much lower speeds than the Class 1 railroads. I would like to just respond to some of the comments by my colleagues over here with regard to specific detector data. I mean, the reason it is industry practice not to disclose the exact number of location of detectors so as not to create a security risk that could make the network vulnerable to tampering and potential safety issues. And furthermore, it's important to acknowledge that the industry looks at its overall network when placing detectors, and an out-of-state detector also provides protection within Minnesota. For example, an acoustic bearing detector thousands of miles from Minnesota may catch impending bearing failures weeks in advance, preventing an adverse event from happening here in the state. So having that inventory of detectors located in the state wouldn't paint the whole picture. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to provide comments and also would be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions? No? Okay. Any discussion before we finish up? All right, thank you so much. Nice job. Well, it doesn't look like there's really any more business before us, so I guess we can call it a day. Meeting's adjourned.